Welcome everyone. My name is Samantha Oakley from ALA's Public Programs Office. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar. We're excited to have Darcy Smith and Carrie Raritt to speak with us today about using Pokemon Go in the library. I'm going to keep my introduction brief so we have plenty of time for our presenters. Today's webinar is presented by ALA's Public Programs Office with support from ALA's Cultural Communities Fund. To learn more about the Cultural Communities Fund or make a contribution, visit ala.org/ccf. Hopefully many of you have heard of Programming Librarian, a website of ALA's Public Programs Office. We have lots of program ideas, resources, and an online learning library free webinars like this one. We also send a free e-newsletter twice per month. To sign up, go to programminglibrarian.org and click About. Finally, a couple of notes about our virtual classroom. Only our presenters have microphone access, but you are welcome to type your questions or comments in the chat box. We will have time for a Q&A at the end. And if you have any technical issues, please send a private message to Colleen Barbas. To do that, just hover over Colleen's name in the upper right-hand corner of the screen and select Start Private Chat. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce Darcy Smith. Darcy is the Community Outreach Librarian at Prince George Public Library in British Columbia, Canada. She enjoys challenging the status quo and strives to provide inclusive, barrier-free programs and services. She has worked in libraries for over 10 years and recently received her MLIS from University of Alberta. Her interests include bicycles, dogs, hiking, and plotting ways for libraries to take over the world. Darcy will be discussing how her library has been utilizing the Pokemon Go craze to revitalize a downtown walking tour and increase their presence in the community. Darcy?
Thank you. All right, so welcome to the webinar. It's really nice to see some fellow British Columbians out there. So I've thematically titled my presentation, Evolving Your Library Using Pokemon Go for Downtown Revitalization. I'm going to share some information on what we did here at PGPL with Pokemon Go and how we were able to add a local educational twist to it. So just to kind of orient us, we're going to start off, what is Pokemon Go? So it's an augmented reality game that you play on your phone, and it syncs with your map and camera, so the Pokemon literally spawn in your real world environment, which is why you can see pictures of Pikachu sitting on a dog's head or something. So the point of the game is to catch all of the Pokemon, and it's been around since about the mid-90s, and this is the latest incarnation. So some quick definitions for you. Pokéstop, that's a location on the map that dispenses items when you reach it. A gym is a real-world location where you can train your Pokemon and battle for ownership over the gym because there's 3 different teams. And finally, a lure, that's an item that draws Pokemon to your location, and these are super handy when running a Pokemon program because it lures players to the library. So that's just to get us started. All right, so for the past 10 years, PGPL has been hosting historic downtown walking tours. We run these twice a week throughout the summer months, and to create this program, we partnered with the Exploration Place, which is our museum, and the Prince George Heritage Commission, which is a local community group that does a lot of historical work in the community. So up there you can see that is our poster for the tours. At every stop, we have information signs like this placed. These are really great because they're posted year-round and they're all over the city, not just downtown. It's really important to have these here because they recognize where we come from, and also not all of our history is positive, so it's important to have these signs posted that speak the truth of our area. So on the tour, we do a walk, and we stop at the signs, share a story about the location, point out any interesting details, and then talk about what you can see there today. And we also have a free mobile app that can take you through a self-guided tour at any point during the year. So, you must be wondering, how did we ever manage to work Pokemon Go into this? So here's a shot of our revamped walking tour poster. So we added a bit more text to this just to kind of explain what you can expect when you come on the tour and to catch any early questions that people might have, because it did seem like a pretty weird idea to a lot of people and we had tons of questions about it. So each summer, PGPL hires a Heritage Project assistant, and they do the research on the stops and they lead the tours. In 2014, that person was me, and so that's how I got involved with organizing the Pokemon tours. When Pokemon Go was first released, I was talking with Paige in the picture there, who's our 2016 project assistant, about how great it would be to do a library program around Pokemon Go. And then when Paige was doing a walking tour later that week, she noticed that a lot of our historical tour stops were also Pokestops. And it basically snowballed beautifully from there. Because we already had the foundation of the program in place, we could easily tweak the marketing materials to represent the new twist. And our library is also right next door to the art gallery, and the art gallery has 2 Pokemon gyms at it, so there's a ton of people who are playing there anyway. So Paige created this map with the Pokestops downtown on it, and we selected ones that coincided with the regular tour stop. So that's just a little snapshot of downtown PG. We really wanted to draw in our elusive young adult demographic, so we made the tour on Wednesday evenings at 8 o'clock. And we wanted a program that we ourselves would attend. It did end up attracting all ages. We did get young adults, we got teens, we got adults, and entire families. And it was a great program for families because while the kids played, the parents could listen to the historical facts and also make sure that the kids didn't drop their phones. So we had some of the same people attend each week, and we were able to connect with them in a completely different way than we would normally, just sitting at the reference desk. So we did 5 tours total, with our stats being 30 people for the first tour, 35 for the next, 30 for the third, and then the last 2 we got around 15 participants. We did expect the numbers to drop, but even those lower numbers are really successful in terms of the walking tour in general. So there's just a shot of the crowd. So we basically get a big group together, we do the route downtown, we stop for the historical locations, which are Pokestops. We collect items, and we'll also stop at gyms. So that's a shot of a big group gym battle right there. And yeah, we always started off with the history of the spot, which is kind of cool. For the final tour, we tried and failed to get participants to dress up. So here's a shot of library staff in costume. We were the only ones who dressed up, and we did end up drawing in more people as we walked around because it looked pretty funny. And I think it's pretty clear that my Pikachu costume is the best. So I've got some tips for you. So first of all, trespassing is a huge topic with Pokemon Go. So both Paige and I were interviewed by the radio, television, and newspaper, and each time they asked us about Pokemon players trespassing. It was really important to be able to speak to this because suddenly the entire city was looking at me as the spokesperson for it. And there wasn't really an issue with any of the stops on our tour, but in Prince George there is a Pokestop at a First Nations burial ground in Clade Lakes Memorial Park, and that has not been respected by players, and it's gained quite a bit of media attention, and often in contrast with our program. So players have been going to this grave, and they've been stepping over the barrier, walking on the graves, and so I would have to provide commentary on that. So once you start promoting Pokemon, you have to advocate for respectful use and be willing to speak on the issue, whether you want to or not. That was something that we hadn't anticipated. We also had our security guard attend the tours. He was in plain clothes, but we brought him along just in case because it was in the evening downtown. And with such a large group, you just don't know what could happen. We had a really great group, and we didn't actually end up having very many issues, so it was pretty good. So make sure that all staff who are program leads are knowledgeable about the history. When we had such a large group, it was, and especially when you're outside downtown, you can't always hear what the speaker was trying to say. So often people would ask the closest staff member, oh, can you tell me a bit about this area? I didn't hear them. So it reflects really well if you can answer it. That was one of the main benefits of having 2 of us on the tour who had actually led the tours before. And then another thing is just make sure that all staff actually know how to play Pokemon, because we also got questions on how to play it, which ended up being really fun to teach kids how to catch stuff. But yeah, just make sure. It seems like a given, but it, just cover your bases. And then finally, use your community connections. We couldn't have created the historical tours on our own without collaboration between the Heritage Commission and the museum. So that was really important. And also just use your staff talent. That's really how this idea was possible, because we had people from different departments who just decided to have a conversation in the lunchroom and were able to end up using our skills in this really fun way. And it ended up being a really great summer program that hopefully we might try next year too. Okay, so this program created a really amazing opportunity for outreach in downtown revitalization. I lived in Prince George for about 20 years, and I've heard so many people say that they never go downtown because they don't feel safe, and a lot of libraries are located in downtowns, and so the library gets that reputation too. People don't want to go to the library for whatever reason. So the really cool thing is that we were able to get a group of 35 people on a weeknight walking boldly and proudly with us, the library, right through their downtown, learning about the history and providing critical mass in a space that often suffers from its reputation. So every city, every place has a history, and I really encourage you to explore options for a walking tour in whatever capacity you can, whether it's Pokemon or not. This was just a really fun way to expand on our tours. And walking around your city builds community, and it increases pride and ownership of the local spaces. So that is it for me. Do feel free to contact me via email. I also put my telephone number up there. If you're feeling particularly extroverted, you can give me a call. And for those of you who are curious, I am a proud member of Team Mystic. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Darcy. Next, we'll hear from Carrie Ruritt. Carrie is the director of the Thomas J. Harrison Pryor Public Library in Oklahoma. Carrie and her staff strive to engage the community in as many positive libraries do that ways as possible. Before becoming a director, she worked as a teen services librarian, managing all social media content. Prior to downloading Pokémon Go, her knowledge of Pokémon was limited to Pikachu and Charmander. Today, Carrie will share how her library is using online and print marketing to reach new library users and increase their street cred. Carrie?
Hi everyone. We're having a little bit of a thunderstorm in Pryor right now, so if you hear weird noises, it's probably just thunder. Hopefully it doesn't interfere too much. As Sam said, my part of the presentation will focus on how my library has used Pokemon Go as a marketing tool, but first I'd like to tell you a little bit about Pryor because I'm pretty sure most of you have never heard of our small town. Pryor is a small town of just under 10,000 people situated in northeast Oklahoma. We're about 45 minutes northeast of Tulsa. Libraries in Oklahoma, in order to qualify for state aid funding, are required to provide free library cards to anyone who lives in the county. So our direct service population is just under 10,000, but our potential service population encompasses all 40,000 residents of Mays County. So our involvement with Pokemon Go, almost half of our staff members play voluntarily. We are a small staff. We have 5 full-time employees and 3 part-time employees. And the weekend after Pokemon Go was released, 3 of us downloaded the game independently, mostly because it was all anyone posted about on social media and we assumed our patrons would be playing, but also because we were curious about the game. After playing, we also assumed our library would be at least a Pokéstop, but we were really hoping the library was a gym. It's not, which is really sad because we had really big plans for naming Pokemon after literary characters. All of our staff have a passing familiarity with the game. Because the 3 of us were so excited about the game after we downloaded it, we regaled the rest of the staff with our tales of Pokemon success. We also did the practical thing of briefing them on the game, how it works, what Pokemon or what a Pokéstop is and everything like that. And really everyone is just having a lot of fun with the game on staff. Probably the most fun is being had by the staff who don't play. They get tickled when the playing staff suddenly converge to share Pokemon Go news, and I think probably the best example of that was when one of my part-time staff members burst into my office and declared that someone had dropped a lure and there was a flare on at the library. So when we got involved with marketing our library and Pokemon Go together, the first thing we did was to post to our various social media pages. This that you're seeing here is our first Pokemon Go post where we announced that we were a Pokéstop and that the library staff plays. Because players of Pokemon Go already have a mobile device, posting our involvement with the game on social media was a natural choice. And one of the coolest things I think about the game is that you can choose the augmented reality setting when you catch Pokemon so that it looks like the Pokemon are in your real world. And we just used our Pokemon in the Stacks pictures when we advertise that we're a Pokéstop. And we've had some really nice feedback from our patrons with those posts. They do tend to get shared more often than our more traditional posts get shared. And one of the things to remember when posting on Facebook especially is that organic reach is tricky to get. So if your library staff is comfortable doing so, you might encourage them to start liking and sharing library posts so that you get a little bit broader reach than if no one liked it or shared it from your staff. The next thing that we did was to start placing lures at our Pokéstop. This is a picture of what our Pokéstop looks like. It is technically, the stop is the time capsule that's on library grounds, but everyone just refers to it as the library's Pokéstop. We noticed that most of the players, including young adults and millennials and families, prefer to play Pokemon Go in the evening when the weather is a little cooler and people get off work. Our library is only open late on Mondays and Thursdays, so we started putting lures out on those evenings. We advertise some of our lure placement via social media with some good turnout, but people have been taking advantage of the lures even when we don't advertise them. But either way, we try to encourage players to come inside, to cool off, to get a drink, to check out a book, and just use the library when they're at our stop. And finally, we tied Pokemon Go in with our services. We put up signs on all of our doors that say, this Pokéstop gives free library cards, which was, phrasing was inspired by a library in Farmers Branch, Texas. We also put up a Pokemon display with our various Pokemon books and comic books. But most importantly, we started talking to our patrons and community members about Pokemon and about the library. Players, when they are playing, are really easy to spot, so it isn't difficult to strike up a conversation even if you're at Walmart or walking in the park. These conversations, especially in the wild, are mostly just about the game, exchanging advice, tips, and banter, but we try to also know that the library is a Pokéstop. Sometimes we also get to talk to people about our services, but our focus really is more on making the connection with our community than anything else. And honestly, we haven't really had many behavior problems that we can directly link to Pokemon Go players. We've had a couple of instances of teens being rowdy and trash talking while playing, but it's been pretty minor. I think if we were a gym, we would probably experience more problems with rowdiness, but since we're not, that has been pretty light. And as far as people not using our library resources, that one doesn't really bother me very much. I feel like if people are in our building, as long as they are respectful of the space, they are using us as a resource. The game has, though, given us an in for talking to our teens who were just loafing around using our Pokéstop. So it's been an opportunity to reach the patrons who were just using us for air conditioning and cheap soda. And when we have had problems with players, mostly we just remind them where they are and what behavior is appropriate. And that seems to fix the issue. We have not found a solution for patrons gloating about their Pokemon Go successes, though. Like a lot of libraries, our door counts are up right now, generally speaking, so it's hard to determine whether more people are coming in to play Pokemon Go or if they would be here anyway and are just playing while they're here. We have had some really fun in-house conversations, exchanging pointers about the game with our patrons. For instance, we learned that Walmart in Pryor is the place to catch Pokemon. It's also been an opportunity for our teens to teach us and talk to us about gyms and how they work and the different Pokemon, which has definitely strengthened our relationship and increased our cool factor with our teens. Our town's junior high is catty corner across the street from the library, so having a good relationship with our teens is pretty vital. It's been good team building for our library staff. The playing staff are bonding over the game, and the non-playing staff are bonding over watching the players be silly over the game. They particularly like watching one of our more adventurous staff members wander around across the street in an old parking lot to try and catch Pokemon. And then, as I mentioned earlier, Pokemon Go has been an excellent tool for outreach in our community. We've gotten to visit with our police officers about the game. I'm currently trying to convince them that they should join our Pokécrawl tomorrow in uniform. I think I've got Chief convinced, but we'll see. We've also gotten to teach local officials about the game. Our city council members, our library board members, and our city hall staff, for the most part, had zero clues and a considerable amount of confusion about the game when it first came out, but their interest was piqued when they started seeing our Facebook posts. And then most importantly, our involvement with Pokemon Go has let our community know that we're in touch with things other than books and reading. We're getting to pleasantly surprise our community, and we're being seen as a fun place and a fun staff, not just a stuffy old library. Libraries all over are doing fun things with Pokemon Go. Here are 2 examples of great ways to incorporate your collection beyond the directly related titles into the game. The one on the left is from the Lane Library and Learning Commons at Armstrong State University in Georgia. They set up a display based on the characteristics of the 3 different Pokemon teams, which I think is super smart, and I may steal that at a later date. The other one is from the Preston branch of the Idea Exchange in Cambridge, Ontario, Canada. This display was made actually before Pokemon was released in Canada and features birding, old school Pokemon Go. And I think other similar displays could probably be about geocaching, which is kind of similar. I've also seen libraries doing scavenger hunts, crafts, and other in-house programs related to Pokemon Go, so the options really are plentiful. And that's it for me. Thank you guys so much. I hope you have gotten some ideas. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact me. My contact information is on the next slide. Also, please feel free to visit my library online. I've put our web address here and our social media information. And I am also Team Mystic. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Gary. So we have a little bit less than 10 minutes left. If anyone would like to ask Carrie or Darcy any questions, feel free to type those in the chat box now. And it looks like we have someone typing, so we'll give them a couple of minutes to enter in their question. So this is from Caitlin. Our library is not currently a Pokéstop. Do you know how to make it one? Darcy or Carrie, do you know the answer to that?
There was some talk of being able to request to be a Pokéstop or a gym. I don't know how far that has gotten. It might be worth checking with the creators of the game, like maybe going to their website. Darcy, do you know any more about that?
What I do know is that, yeah, you can request it, but it's hard for them to reply back. It's the same thing as when people say, hey, we don't want this to be a Pokéstop, and they try and get it taken out. It's taken quite a while, and I don't think anything's been removed. But yeah, because the game started with, it was actually a different game called Ingress, and so they kind of imported that data into Pokemon Go. So from what I understand, players were making Pokestops through that first game, so all they did was just transfer it into Pokemon Go, so they were already there essentially, so it is a little tricky. Well, I mean, I don't see how it can be that hard. If they can make it, they can remove it, but anyway, yeah, it's a little complicated.
Okay, great. This one's from Sheila. She would like to know how to become a lure site. So do one of you guys want to explain that?
As far as we've done, we just drop lures because you get incense and lure modules at Pokestops. It's one of the items you can collect. So what we do and what a lot of businesses do is just use one of our lures, and then you can see on the slide there, they'll get like little hearts kind of going around the location. So that means that a lure's been put out. So you have to actually use one of your items to do it.
And if you have a lure, the way to do it is there's that white oval that has the pink. That's what the lure looks like. You click on that, and then you select your lure to place at that Pokestop. That's how you set the lure.
Right, and someone says you can also buy them. I don't encourage people to spend money on the game, but you can.
A question from Amy. Do you have to be a certain level to be able to start looting lures from Pokestops?
I'm not sure actually. I know you do have to be a certain level to get on a team, but I think as your experience goes up, you're more likely to get better items. I can't remember. I think I got my first lure when I was maybe only level 7, so I don't actually know officially if there's a limit, but you should be able to get them.
Yeah, I think that as you level up, you get gifts from the game, and some of those are lures. And if you occupy a gym, you also get coins and lures and all kinds of like swag from being part of that gym. So I don't know. I don't think that they're at the Pokestops, but I have been wrong before, so I don't know for sure about that.
Great. So we have a few more people typing. We'll give them a little bit of time to... Has anyone experienced the new buddy system in the recent update?
No, I haven't yet. I only just updated mine this morning, though.
Yeah, and I haven't experienced it yet either.
Yeah, I haven't either on mine. This is from Kate. What is the Poke Crawl you were talking about, Carrie?
Our downtown is very small, but we have started doing a third Thursday event from 4 to 7 every month, and we've got I think we have 12 Pokestops in various places in downtown. So I actually did spend money on Pokemon Go, and I spent $10, and I bought a bunch of lures, and I will starting at 4 when Third Thursday starts and going until 7, I will set a lure or 2 downtown every 30 minutes. So there will be lures going through the whole downtown event. We've partnered with our Downtown Prior Association and some other businesses, and a little bit with the rec center as well to kind of publicize this. And I'm hopeful that it'll be really fun for everybody who goes.
Great, thanks. I think the questions are slowing down. We'll give it another minute, and if anyone has any last-minute questions for Carrie or Darcy, go ahead and enter them. Otherwise, we will see you all later. Oh, okay. This is from Julie. When you have conducted your walks, have you had a problem with people talking about Pokemon while you are trying to talk to them, or have them ignore you, or have them ignore what you are saying? And how have you worked with that? I think that's for Darcy.
It really actually hasn't been an issue, but that's also another benefit of having more than one staff member, because usually we can kind of occupy the attention of, half the group. So usually when we stop, like we can chat along the way as we're walking, and people will kind of, we'll stop and catch stuff as we come up to them. But when we get to a Pokéstop, usually everyone turns their attention to the speaker. I guarantee, like if we kept doing it, there would probably be situations where it was harder to manage the group. But we had, for the most part, a pretty good set of people who would just kind of usually stop talking. But again, one of us would kind of usually come up behind the group. So then those people in the back, if they couldn't hear, then they would just talk with me or the other person. So.
Great, thanks. Okay, so we're almost out of time, so we'll go ahead and wrap this up. Thanks so much to Darcy and Carrie for this presentation, and to all of you for joining us. This webinar will be available for viewing on programminglibrarian.org within a couple of hours. Thank you.